All right, so in this particular session, we're going to be covering off on how to do some reporting from within PayLogic. So hopefully at the end of this tutorial, you'll be able to generate some more relevant practice management kind of reports out of PayLogic. So just so you know, the idea is that you've gone through, you've done all of your setup, you're probably importing some statements and doing some process payouts and paying out to your practices or to your advisors. Once you've done that, there's a few different types of reports that you're probably going to want to be generating. And these will vary depending on the time of the year. It might be, end of month reports, end of financial year reports. You might even be going through the motions of doing your PI insurance application, which means you'll need quite specific reports to be able to do those applications as well. So there's two spots that you can go to generate different types of reports. First and foremost, the second top icon up in the top left-hand corner is the metrics report. Now, within the metrics report, we've got some stock standard reports. So these are kind of more generic ones that we've been asked about over and over and over. So what you'll notice in the top is there is a drop-down menu that says what is the report type that you're looking for. So as I said, these are some stock standard ones. You can do a little bit of tailoring with these, but for all intents and purposes, they're predetermined or preset reports. So one example is the missing account reports. So some of you might know this as being called a drop-off report. We call it missing accounts. So ideally what the idea is here is it will be going through and saying we've been receiving all of these fees from this product provider for this advisor. We've been receiving it regularly, and for some reason this month that payment has dropped off. And it's going about finding out which account is missing this month compared to the last X number of months, depending on how far back you're going. So from here, you simply say the report type. You'll then go through and say which particular advisor group are you looking at. Now, depending on your licensee, you might only have one practice that you're paying to. You might have a large number of practices and it might be just one advisor that you're looking at to see which accounts are missing. So pretty clear, you just go through and tick on whichever business it is that you're looking at. To the right of that, you can also narrow it down based on which product provider. So again, you might have an advisor ring up, say, oh, you didn't pay me this one, why hasn't it come through? So you can narrow it down based on which product provider has got missing accounts. Depending on what you're choosing there, will change the screen down below based on what it is you're looking at. So which advisor group? I've got all three advisor groups here. Which product provider? I've still got all of the product providers. You can narrow that down. Just like you can then narrow it down per month. So you might have an advisor who said, oh, I didn't get such and such payment last month. Change it back to September and the graphs will update based on what happened in September. So from here, I can say, well, this advisor group was missing some accounts last month. I can click onto this and it will then narrow it down based on the advisor within that particular business. So the first screen is the business. The second screen is which advisor. If I then click on the advisor, we narrow it down based on which product has got missing accounts. From here, you can say, okay, well, what happened within OnePath? When I click on OnePath, I then get a list of the clients that were missing for the month of September from OnePath. So it's a matter of clicking on the different graphs to get to the relevant list of which client accounts have dropped off. From there, I can export that out to Excel, and then I can obviously provide that to my client, or I might go back to OnePath and say, geez, why have all these payments suddenly dropped off? Why am I not receiving that payment? So that's a pretty simple report. It's giving you straight through clicking on the different graphs to get to what accounts have dropped off, what accounts are missing for that month. Now, as I mentioned at the start, in the metrics reports, there are a couple of others depending on what you're wanting to look at. So advisor office revenue analysis, you can put in your start and finish dates, again, basing it on your advisor groups, and you just get some different graphs showing, what amount of fees have come through from that particular provider or that particular office, depending on what you're wanting to look at. A couple of the other standard ones that are up the top is product provider revenue. So as opposed to looking at each different advisor practice, this is giving you the fees that are coming through from each provider based on the time frames that you've put in up the top. So you can then see which product providers are paying you what amounts for that time period. Next one, total fee process for upfront and ongoing. Pretty simple. This is going to come through and tell you the total fees that have been paid per month. So nice and simple on that one. So as I said, these are kind of stock standard reports, so pretty simple to follow. And then you've also got your total fees processed per month. And again, because mine's dummy account, which is why we don't have amounts for some of the months, you can then go through and look at your totals. Again, if you are looking for one particular advisor, just choose that advisor group. So I can uncheck them all and then say, look, just show me for advisor group 1. What did we pay them? What did we do for advisor group 1 and 2? And it all just recalibrates as you're changing the different options at the top. So as I said, that's our metric reports. They're the stock standard ones. They're the preset. The only real difference you get to put in is which advisor groups, which business you're wanting to look at, and you can change the dates around as well. But for all intents and purposes, they are preset reports. The next one over and above that is when you come down a little bit further in the list, you have the heading that says reports. Now, you'll notice here that there's quite a few different ones in here. These give you a little bit more scope to change them around. So payout report, this is pretty simple. This is going through and saying when have you processed payouts, which comes up in the green on your calendar, and you can say on the 10th, what did I process as that payout? What you'll see down underneath here is a list of the different advisor groups. Now, depending on how many advisor businesses you are paying out to, you'll see a bigger or a smaller list here. Because this is one of the demo accounts, we've really only got relevant data on 1 or 2 practices, hence we only get to see one list here. Just so you know from here, over on the right-hand side, I can unprocess a payout, which basically reverses the payout. Probably not what you're going to be doing terribly often, but just know that you can look at that one as well. I can export to Excel. So what this will do is whatever was processed as a part of this payout will be exported to Excel. That's what you're probably going to provide to a lot of your advisor groups, along with the PDF. So these are, for all intents and purposes, your RCTIs or your payments that you've sent out to the clients. So, sorry, I'm just going to move my boxes around here a little bit. When I click on the Excel as an example, just like what most of you have seen in PayLogic, the report will pop up down the bottom. So I can simply click on this one here and it will open up my report in Excel. So we've got a covering page. I can have a look at through the pages down the bottom to look at a summary. So I can see just what has been paid out. Across we can get a brokerage summary. So again, upfronts and ongoings, what's the breakdown and what provider is it coming from in a graph. Sorry, I've got to move these webinar boxes around again. We've got an earnings for the current financial year. So this is giving your advisors a breakdown on per month, what fees have been paid to them. We've got a summary for the current year. So again, this just puts it into a little bit more detail with some graphs. And lucky last is the actual breakdown of the payments that have gone through. So this will actually give your advisors a lot more detail about the clients and what type of payments they're receiving. So this is a typical sort of report that you would be paying or providing to your advisors. Again, you can do it in Excel or PDF or both, depending on what they're wanting to see or what you're wanting to provide to them. Next one down, licensee income report. This is the same concept. However, this is about what you have retained. So for most licensees, you'll say, okay, we've received this much money coming in and we're paying out 90 or 95% or whatever that percentage might be out to our advisors. The rest is what you're retaining to cover your costs. So this just gives you a breakdown, say the total amount received per advisor office, what you've paid out to the advisor group, if there's been any referral payments made, and how much you have retained. In some cases, you will also have a fixed fee, which that will come through on this column here that I'm showing, and lucky last, a total report for the licensee. So what is the total of these last 2 columns as to what is being retained by the licensee? Now, again, up the top, you can change the dates, which will vary depending on just what you're reporting on. So you might be having to report on a monthly basis back to your, the operations manager. You'll put in your dates as being the 1st of October through to the 31st of October, or whatever that time frame is going to be. Once you've changed the dates, just make sure you click on the submit button so that everything does update. But then once again, you simply export to Excel or PDF, depending on what you're wanting to provide to that person that you're reporting back to. So as you can see, these are all pretty simple and straightforward. The next one down, payment banking. This is pretty simple. Again, you put in your different dates of what you're doing, and across on the right-hand side, you'll generally export this to Excel and pass this to whoever it is that's doing the actual banking for you. What this tells that person is when I can get mine to open in Excel. Sorry, let me just try that again. What it tells you to do when, it's going to play funny games on me because I had the other one open. Bear with me, guys. I'm just going to shut this other one down. There we go. Okay, so what we get when we open up this other report is a summary of who we need to pay and how much. Now, with this, if you've got all of your banking details set up into the advisor group file, you will also have the BSB and account numbers. That's really handy if you are giving this on to a third person so that they can go through and do the actual banking, because it's going to tell them straight up what amounts need to be paid. Now, before anybody asks, why have I got my advisor office number 1 showing up multiple times? You'll see the different dates here. Now, generally speaking, you will have changed your dates in PayLogic before generating this report, and you will only see today's report. Sorry, I just clicked off it there. So you'll generally only see the payment that you're actually wanting to pay today. Me, I did it on purpose, didn't change my date, so you can even see what past payments have been made to the different offices depending on what you're wanting to show. So I hope that makes sense as to why multiple offices or the same office is coming up multiple times. If you just check your date to the current date, you will see what is due to be paid today. All right, next one down, advisor product analysis, is exactly what it says. You can go through and again, you can put in your different dates. You can have a look at the different offices and see, different advisors within the office, how much each office is generating or how much each advisor within an office is generating as well. So it's just analysing which one of your offices within which one of the practices is generating the income. Now, again, you'll probably notice from the top up here, we've got the headings, so we can see it per product as well. Once again, export to Excel or PDF, and this is exactly what you will see in the relevant report style. So again, if you're providing it to a third person, it might be to the advisor, it might be to somebody else within your business, they can quite easily see which product and which advisors are producing the revenue that's coming through to the licensee point of view. Or if it's one of the practice managers that's asking for this, you can give them their relevant information so that they can see which one of their advisors is producing the income as well. So it's all about just analysing where the revenue is coming from. Next one down, new accounts. So this is very similar in that you can go through and you can put in your date range. You can say from a product provider, and you can actually ask or find out, I guess, or see which advisor is generating what new business and just where that new business is coming from. So I can look at this and I can say, okay, well, advisor office number 1 has got this new account code for this client. If I can expand it out, I can then see just what it is that's coming through. So for this one, I can see that it's different types of insurance for the one policy number, and that's all come through paid to the advisor. So before we were looking at missing accounts, so ones that have dropped off and are not being paid anymore, this is a summary of any new accounts that have come on. Now, as a general rule in your business, you probably won't see this many new accounts. This is because this is a dummy or a demo account, so we have lots of new random stuff coming in all of the time. But if you've got advisors saying, geez, I really thought that new business would have completed this month, hasn't come through, you can come in here to check and see if it is showing, and maybe it's been mapped to the wrong advisor or something along those lines. So this is where you can come in and see any new accounts that have come through for the first time in whatever that date range is that you've put in. Once again, just so you know, you can also come through and you can say, from Clearview and only for this one advisor or product, whatever it might be that you're actually looking for. And you can see there, as soon as I've changed it to Clearview, I've got no new accounts coming through from Clearview because it's that demo account situation. All right, I hope all of this is making sense because we're almost at the end of this where we get into the fun one of where you can actually design your own reports. But product file summary is the last of the standard ones. Very similar concept that you can come through, you can select which advisor groups, which product provider, and putting in your date ranges. Now, I might just change this date range to see if I can actually get something in to show you, but it gives you a little bit of a summary about what you have brought through. So as an example, I've just put in a really wide date range. If I expand out AIA, I can then say, okay, on the 17th of August, I uploaded an AIA file. It was for $380 odd and it had 37 entries on it. On the 4th of July, on the 2nd of August, these are the files that I have been uploading. So it's an overview of the different files that you've been bringing in. So as an example, if I'm sitting there, I've got an AIA file, I don't know if I've uploaded it, I can come in here and I can go through and go AIA, what dates have I uploaded and what was the file names? Does that match with the one I'm looking at? If it does, I can go, oops, better not import it again. Or if I can go, oh, it's not there, yep, safe to upload it. So it's one of those spots that you can use it for reporting purposes or you can use it as a way of checking whether you have already uploaded a file or not. All right, as I just mentioned, the last one we're looking at today is data segments. Now, some of you have played around with segmentation reports within AdvisorLogic. If you have, that's great because this is very, very similar. Same concept. If you've not done it in AdvisorLogic, this might help you do AdvisorLogic ones because the idea is exactly the same. Normally when you come in here, this will be a blank page because these are ones that we've put in our demo account already. So normally what you will see is up in the top right-hand corner, a button that says Add. Like everything, you click on Add and you're going to start building your own report. So what you should hopefully be able to do is enter in a name of the report you're creating. Pretty much just like anywhere else, call it something that's meaningful so that you can come back and find it at a later stage. So I'm going to call this one Training and Today's Date. Then you can build in a bigger description. So ideally with the description, you'll be going through and saying, look, I'm trying to show my upfront fees for, this particular advisor for Mr. X or whatever it might be. So like anything, make it so that you not only yourself can go back and search it, but so it's meaningful for other people that might be looking for a similar report. Now, for anybody that can't see that database segment report down here, check that you've scrolled down because sometimes you do need to scroll down a little bit depending on how you've got your resolution out on your screen, but it should be under the reports and data segments. If it's not there, shoot an email through to the support team and just say, guys, I can't actually see data segments, and they can have a look and see why. But it should be there. Sometimes I find with resolution of screen, it does hide a little bit and some people forget they need to scroll down. I'm not saying that you guys are doing that, but just bear in mind that sometimes with resolution you might need to. But once you've done that, it then comes down to a point of choosing what details you want to see on your report. So it's going to come out in, for all intents and purposes, an Excel report. So you're going to have columns A, B, C, and so on, depending on how many you choose. What you're looking at here is the heading that says Fields to Display. When you expand these out, they've got options underneath them. So you can go through and you might be saying, oh, I want to find out what advisor group is paying me a certain split, or I just want to see their contact details, whatever it might be. So you would just go through and you'd say, show me the advisor group name. I want to check out their authorised rep number and I want to see where they're based. So each time I tick on one, it pops it over here on the right-hand side as building my list. When I close that down, I can then go through and I might say, oh, I need to see who the advisors are within that group. So again, you would just go through and tick on whichever option it is that you're wanting to see. So I might put in refer a type and refer a name just as an example. When you go down, you simply keep ticking on more and more options. Now, you might have noticed as soon as I chose some advisor groups, some of these other fields disappeared because it's dynamic and it goes, okay, well, if you're looking at this, none of this is going to be relevant to you. So just bear that in mind. If I hadn't chosen any of the advisor groups, I might just jump into the licensee side of it and I can choose licensee fields as well. So every time you choose something, it does have a flow-on effect to say, well, if you're doing that, you don't want to do this. So just bear that in mind. So what I've done now, as soon as I click on save, I've designed my report. All I've really done is given it a name and a description, and I've said what I want my column headings to be. Just so you know, once you've picked on them, you can click on one and move it up to put it into a different column. So go through and just tick them off in order as when you're wanting them, and then move them around here and say, nope, need that down the end, whatever it might be. So you can just move them around, and then you can click on the update or the save button to actually say, this is the order that I want. Now, if I did preview, it's going to open this up on screen. If I click on download, it will export it into Excel. The thing here is, if I did that now, it's going to show me these headings, but it's going to show me all of my data under these headings, which is possibly not what you want to do. So up in the top right-hand corner, you'll notice that there's a button that says Define Filters. So right now I'd see my entire database with this information. By defining the filters, I can go through and say this is the type of advisor or type of entry that I want to see. It does take a little bit of practice, but for all intents and purposes, you're going to simply go through here and say, okay, they're the fields I want to see, but this is what I want to see. So I might want to see for one particular advisor group. So I can say, show me the advisor group that has, I'm just trying to think, advisor group name. And what I'm wanting to look at is anybody that has a blank advisor group name, which none will come up on that one, just so you know. But I can go through and say, show me any advisor group whose advisor group name is not blank or is blank, whatever it might be that you've chosen. Or it might be that contains a certain value. So it's pretty simple to go through and say, that's what I'm wanting to do. And I can update the changes, which will save that filter. I can add another rule if I'm wanting to. So if I say add rule, I get another row of filters to put in. Now, when I start going through here, I can say, oh, okay, and show me their product provider that might match product provider name that contains the word letters, I don't know, AIA. When I click on update changes, that has saved my filters. So if I clicked on preview or download now, I'm actually going to get a more meaningful report. Now, just so you know, this is a demo account. It does have random information. So I have got a warning here that says that there's no data to display. All that means is that those filters that I've put in don't actually match anything, which is what I suspected, because I've said if the advisor group name is blank, that's not something that's possible. You can't have a blank advisor group name because you're putting that in when you set them up. So realistically, I'd be saying in that instance that it contains a particular field. Now, I'm just trying to think of one that we've got in here. I'm going to type in demo on the off chance that we might have a demo advisor group name, and that way I might get some information. Now, the other thing that you need to know about when you are defining filters, when you're putting in more and more filter groups, you've got the option of and, or. So what happens is it's a matter of reading your sentences, and you'll go through and you'll say advisor group contains the word demo, or the product provider contains AIA. The other option might be and, which means that when I read my sentences, I'm saying advisor group that contains demo and the product provider contains AIA. So it's just a matter of reading whether you need to have and or the word or showing when you're linking one sentence to the next. So I hope that makes sense, but it really is just about reading your sentences to say whether it should say and or as your link from one to the next. And then if I click on update changes, it's going to update those new filter groups. Now again, I'm suspecting I might not get information here either, because again, we have really random information in this account. But normally what would happen when you click on preview, it will open up your report on the screen. Now I'm just going to remove that second one here, and we might get rid of that particular filter, and we'll see if we can get some actual data for you. I do apologize for you for doing this. It is one of those demo accounts that just does have random information, and it's not going to play nicely for me here, unfortunately. So I might come down here and say that product provider name contains AIA, and we'll see if we can get anything this way. That looks more promising. There we go. So normally you'd go through and put in all your different filters, and then you'll see the headings that I've chosen and the information that I've chosen down the bottom. And once again, the download button will simply extract that out into an Excel document. All right, I'm going to stop the recording here. So for those of you watching on YouTube, thank you for your time. Those watching live, please just stick around for a minute and we'll open it up for questions.